Hi there, my name is Jannie Malan and I work for a company called IQ Business, specifically in the Human Performance Division, where we also do a lot of learning and development. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about gamification or engineering happiness. Well, this concern first came about for me while dealing with clients, and everybody started saying, we want to see some gamification. How do we gamify our learning? Unfortunately, gamification has become a bit of a buzzword. So what I typically would see was that people were just trying to put gamification elements onto their existing learning, and they weren't really considering the true impact of what they were doing. So then I started looking at what was out there, and I came across quite a remarkable woman called Jane McGonigal, who's got some interesting theories about gamification. And it starts off really with something like World of Warcraft, where we've in essence been spending, or World of Warcraft players have been spending 50 billion collective hours since its inception, which amounts to 5.93 million years. Now that's almost, as Conigal points out, almost as much time as we have evolved since we started making fire. And the question is, why are people leaving reality for this virtual world? And that's something that McGonigal positions in her quite remarkable book, Reality is Broken. And she's actually saying that there's this mass exodus from reality and normal work into the gamified environments because there's something wrong with reality. She then also proceeds to position several fixes for reality and lessons that we can take from the game world to make reality a better place to be in. Gamification or playing games to escape reality is not a new thing. And she also points out, going back to Herodotus and the histories that he wrote about ancient civilization. There was a place called Lydia, or the people of Lydia, that was struggling. There were some hard times, some famine. There wasn't enough food to go around. And they came together and they decided, what can we do to alleviate this? And they came up with games, dice, they used balls. A lot of the games that we're familiar with now, they actually conceived. So what would happen is that people would eat on one day and they would play games on the next. And that kept them so engaged that they didn't worry about the fact that they didn't have anything to eat. In fact, it worked so well that they kept doing this for 18 years till they could eventually make other plans to relieve the situation. So games have really been around for centuries. Collectively, the planet is now spending more than 3 billion hours a week gaming. And it really begs the question, why is things so wrong with reality that we need to do this? And what are people finding in this space that is so attractive? Perhaps we need to just look at the 4 traits of a game. So any game needs to have a specific goal. There needs to be a specific outcome that players want to achieve. It must give them a sense of purpose. So whether it's slaying dragons or getting the highest score by building a word in Scrabble, there's got to be a definitive goal. The second thing, there's got to be rules. There's got to be limitations on the way that players achieve that specific goal. And those rules are really important because putting those confines in there allows people to become really creative around how they achieve that goal. There's got to be a feedback system. There's got to be something that tells players how close they are to achieving that set goal. And that can be points, levels, scores, progress bars, any real-time feedback that serves as a motivation for them to achieve that goal and to continue to try and achieve that goal. And then finally, there's got to be voluntary participation. Now, this is something that's quite problematic because I'd speak to clients, we'd talk about designing a game for learning, and they would say it's great because we can get everybody to do this. We can force them to complete the game. And that's kind of counterproductive to this defining trait of a game, because there has to be voluntary participation. People need to have that freedom to be able to enter and leave of their own accord. So really, in essence, As defined by Bernard Suits, playing a game, whether it's digital or not, is the voluntary attempt to overcome unnecessary obstacles. But why, according to McGonagall, do these unnecessary obstacles make us happy? Well, it's really a case of real life versus playing a good game. In real life, you don't might have much of a choice in terms of the work that you get given. You have to do it. Sometimes this work is not hard enough. It's menial, it's repetitive, and there's very little satisfaction in completing it. And there's also the whole fear of failure. You've got your next review session coming up. All of those components add to the fact that we don't really enjoy what we do. Versus in a game, or playing a good game, gives you an opportunity to focus your energy. There's optimism. You have a sense that you'll be able to accomplish whatever goals in the game. And it's something that you're good at or getting good at and that you enjoy. The other thing about games is that they offer diverse kinds of work, something that our normal day-to-day jobs don't necessarily do. Games offer things like high-stake work. You have to survive in certain games or you might end up dead. Busy work, where you might do little tasks like in Candy Crush, which doesn't seem like much, but you're busy and you're hard at work completing these little puzzles. There's mental work, building a simulated environment in a game. You've got to consider your resourcing, where you're spending your money, where you're positioning. Those are hard things you need to think about. Physical work, something where you have to dance off against someone, or you busy playing Guitar Hero, where you're actually physically doing something. There's discovery work, that we often see in some of these beautiful realms that get built in games that you can explore. Teamwork, something like World of Warcraft, where you have to organize people together into raiding parties. And then creative work, actually having to come up with creative ideas and doing creative things inside games. But what we're really looking for, and what we don't find in our normal day-to-day work, is what is termed eustress, which is positive stress, versus the heart palpitating stress that we find in everyday work. Eustress is a positive energy, a positive form of stress that we experience in a gaming environment, but is experienced as positive because we know it's a safe space. McGonagall also references what is called firo. Firo is an Italian word really for pride, and that sense of accomplishment or triumph that you experience after you've achieved something really significant, like climbing a mountain or completing a really tough race, or leveling up to the highest level in a specific game. And really that's something that you as an instructional designer can start looking at embedding in your game design and in your learning design. And ideally we want to move to a space where we were able to say, even though we're busy with something difficult, whether it's compliance training, whether it's financial education, whether it's learning processes, we too often say, well, we can't do this because, you know what, this is serious stuff. It isn't a game. We should actually be looking at saying, this could be a game. And how can we go about turning this into a game? A second concept that McGonagall introduces in her work is the concept of flow. Now, this is something that is experienced by gamers as that optimal level of functioning. You're feeling that you are alert, you're cruising along, it's effortless. And you are really at the very peak of your abilities. And these are ideally the moments in your life where you are performing optimally. And those moments inside of your workspace are very few and far between. Now, the chap that researched this, Mihaly, was already doing this in 1971. But at the time he was thinking, why doesn't work, represent games more in this specific thing? Because there's so much value in terms of having this flow. Now, Mihaly found that flow was most reliably and most effectively produced by the specific combination of those self-chosen goals personally optimized obstacles, and continuous feedback. Those things that we already made reference to and that forms part of a typical game. And those are the essential elements that make up gameplay. And he would have liked to have reinvented reality to be more like a game. But at the time it wasn't possible. But things have changed, because since then we've seen a rise in what is known as the positive psychology. Really the psychology that looks at why humans flourish, and the different forms of happiness and how we achieve that happiness. And in combination with that, there has been an explosion of the computer and video game industry. Now, McGonigal positions several fixes for reality, which are really elements that she takes out of how games work and see how we can embed that in reality. And I'm not going to cover all of these, but I would strongly advise that you have a look at her book, Reality is Broken, or watch some of her TED Talks. If you go online, you can go look at some of the examples of some of the projects that McGonigal and others have worked on, some of the samples that she referenced in her books. You will find that it strongly leverages creating a very specific community around these interventions, and that they actually are doing things inside their communities, inside their day-to-day lives, which are actually affecting the entire world. So if you can imagine taking these strategies and building a learning environment, or building an environment in the classroom where we are actually affecting real change, this will be a remarkably powerful thing. And it's definitely something that you should consider when you look to make the move for taking your learning and development into the gamification environment.